good to see everybody here again. I'm Lane Sanders. I'm the development director for El Cosmico. I first joined this project a couple years ago, and before that I started my career as a corporate attorney at Simpson Thacher in New York before transitioning to commercial real estate. Most recently I was COO of a luxury camper van manufacturer and seller in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'll intro myself now, even though I'll talk later. Graham Waitskin, Chief Operating Officer at Icon. Icon is a construction technology company. We're based in Austin, Texas. We'll talk a little bit about Icon a little later. And yeah, I got started in architecture and construction 25 years ago, straight out of school, and never stopped. And just trying to bring new technology to this very, very old industry.
All right, we'll get started. So today, we're going to talk to you about how we take an existing hotel, we reimagine it, we move it, and we build the new version using Icon's revolutionary 3D printing technology. The existing El Cosmico was founded in 2006 by Liz Lambert. Liz is a visionary hotelier, most well known for forming bunkhouse hotels. El Cosmico is located in the vast expanse of the Chihuahuan Desert in far west Texas, in Marfa. The thesis of El Cosmico was to create a community centered around a nomadic hotel and campground that was focused on nature, community, art, and music. Liz was a first mover in the nomadic hospitality space when she founded this in 2006. You've seen many companies that have started since then, but she was really the first to the space. So what began as a humble collection of trailers became a cultural hub for many, and it invited people from all over the world, with more famous, notable guests as Beyonce, Reed Hastings, and even Karl Rove. Marfa is in far west Texas in the US-Mexico border region. And despite its remote location, it's been an international arts destination since Donald Judd moved there in the early 1970s. Judd was most well known for his work that focused on form, space, and the interaction between art and its environment. He found that art shouldn't be on gallery walls, but should rather be in large format in open spaces and permanent. And so Marfa was a perfect destination for him to pursue his vision. Marfa is located in the largest dark sky reserve in the world, spanning over 15,000 square miles. So this is the best place on Earth to witness the Milky Way in all its glory. Here you can truly disconnect and see the vast expanse of the stars. El Cosmico has gained a cult following over the years. From the Telegraph UK, El Cosmico is far more than a place to stay. It's a vibrant community space that fosters creativity and intellectual exchange, along with its quirky artistic accommodation that includes vintage trailers and casitas. You can see some of the existing trailers here, as well as some of the communal spaces, like the Hammock Grove. Every year, El Cosmico hosts the Trans-Pecos Festival of Music and Love. And it's seen many big acts over the years, from Robert Plant to Cat Power to Spoon to St. Vincent, and so on. I've also personally witnessed several marriages at this festival.
2 weeks ago.
Exactly. Graham was there for the second one.
Spontaneous marriages.
Yeah, exactly. Never planned.
It's a good time.
Which is part of the spirit of El Cosmico. But Liz's vision was always to expand El Cosmico, even from the early days in '06. She wanted to add more accommodations. She wanted to add amenities such as a bathhouse, a restaurant, a bar, a pool. And a few years ago, she started exploring this expansion in earnest and spoke to Bjarke Ingels' group. And Bjarke said, "Have you met Jason Ballard from Icon?" She had not at the time, and they connected and immediately realized that Icon's groundbreaking work would be a perfect fit, if not the only fit, to really execute this vision. And so the dream team was assembled to expand El Cosmico. They quickly realized that the existing site was far too small to really realize this vision. And so Liz thought, it's a nomadic hotel, why don't we move it? So she found a site that was 3 times as large across town. It was 61 acres versus the 21 acres that we currently have. So with uninterrupted views of the Davis Mountains, surrounded by undeveloped county land and ranch land, this was a perfect place for El Cosmico. Even better to immerse in nature. And so we thought, how do we infuse the spirit of El Cosmico, this bohemian atmosphere, into this new site? And I normally don't read quotes this long, so bear with me. But I thought this quote from Bjarke was really perfect to explain what the vision was for this site. Our design for the new El Cosmico is a conversation between El Cosmico's past and future. By testing the geometric boundaries of Icon's 3D printed construction, we've imagined fluid, curvilinear structures that enjoy the freedom of form in the empty desert. By using the sand, soils, and colors of the terroir as our print medium, the circular forms seem to emerge from the very land on which they stand. So we looked to the past and the present day El Cosmico, and we looked to nature, and that informed the future. And so this is an aerial shot of what future El Cosmico will look like. As you can see, it's much larger than the existing site. We're able to double our lodgings with this new plan. The site plan is designed specifically to create sort of inflection points for the community to interact. You enter, there's the main house with the pool, and that in the center is the communal fire pit. And plan north, the stage is prominently featured. We will continue to have music festivals and other programming throughout the year. So we have a mix of 3D printed units, some of the old accommodations from the old site, and then we'll continue to have camping so that people can come and join us at different entry points. We're adding a very large circular pool that is framed by the main house, a massive pool deck where people can gather, they can have private events. One of our investors described 2.0 as Amangiri meets Burning Man, which we thought was funny and apt. We're adding a bathhouse with a hammam, sauna, cold plunge, and hot tub. Our restaurant will be helmed by an incredible James Beard Award nominated chef. We're very excited. He's actually from the Chihuahuan Desert as well, which seems really such a perfect fit for this project. We're adding the communal fire pit in the center, which is a great place for people to gather and cook, and we're going to host guest chefs as well, like think Francis Mallman, hopefully. Just putting that out in the universe. Mm-hmm. And we're bringing some trailers over from the old site as well as some of the other units to keep with, tie with the past as well as, keep with our bohemian spirit. We're adding some exciting new tent types from Nomadic Resorts. You can see these biophilic designs will fit perfectly in with 3D printed lodging units. These, the one in the upper left is actually called the Urchin. It's inspired by a sea urchin. And the larger unit is the Looper, inspired by the Looper caterpillar. And the 3D printed lodging units truly create a unique experience that you won't find anywhere else. Bjarke Ingels' group designs, as he said, they appear as if they're emerging directly from the earth. And this futuristic technology really harkens back to shapes that are traditionally only associated with handcraft. And so in more ways than one, it's really the past meeting the future here. And so this vision of El Cosmico is truly its purest manifestation. We plan to use this as a model to replicate elsewhere in other locations, and we are actively open to discussions about incarnations of El Cosmico throughout the world.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thanks, Lane. So I'll talk a little bit about Icon, and then we'll close with some more views of the new El Cosmico. So when Liz and Bjarke reached out to us about 3 years ago, we're from Austin, and there's quite a strong Austin Marfa connection, and so instantly we're like, oh yeah, we want to do that. And then also we realized after seeing hearing some of the ideas and seeing some of the initial concepts that we were the only people in the world that could bring this vision to life. So I'm going to just take us back a little bit and some of the origins of Icon so you can understand kind of how we came to this. So Icon was founded about 6 years ago, maybe 7 at this point, to solve the global housing crisis. And so we developed a 3D printing technology that could build homes faster, cheaper, better homes, really push the boundary of architecture. So we print homes for the homeless. We print luxury homes like you see here. We print production housing, partnering with groups like Lennar. This is one of our developments up in, not far from Waco. Where's my Waco person? Oh, there you go. This is actually in Georgetown, Texas, so kind of halfway between Austin and Waco. We also, kind of in the spirit of El Cosmico, or the Cosmic, we also work with NASA to develop the technology to build on the moon and Mars. This is some of our research where we work to use local building materials, in this case, lunar regolith or lunar soil to build structures on the moon. So how does Icon work? So at our core, we're a robotics company, but we learned pretty early on that the robotics weren't enough. So we started developing softwares to run those robotics and work with architectural CAD. And then we started developing our own materials so that we could have strong quality control over our construction. We, over time, have found that we can build buildings faster, we can control costs, we can really build bring incredible design vision to life because of the freedom of form that 3D printing provides. And along the way, we develop buildings that are higher energy performing, more resilient to natural effects like hurricanes and fire and wind and floods, and create way less waste than traditional construction. So at the end of the day, we really think we're, and the data is starting to show that we're a more sustainable solution as well. It all starts with the material, so we've developed our own proprietary cementitious mix that we print with. We call it Carbon X. It is a low carbon mix. We take that mix out to the site with our printers and can print anything that an architect or an owner can imagine. The printers operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't get tired. They don't show up drunk. They don't take smoke breaks. And really what that means is more predictable, more reliable construction, and particularly in places where there may not be readily accessible trades or maybe trades that are there but too expensive. Let's move forward. So thinking about what we build, really at the core of our system is the 3D printed wall. So a typical wall system, if you've built a stick frame building or even a metal frame building or CMU, you know, it really doesn't perform very well at the end of the day, right? And so what we've done is we've replaced that system with a concrete wall system, and it's for the architectural nerds out there, it's a thermally broken mass wall, basically. So you have all the benefits of a concrete mass wall, but you don't have that thermal bridge from inside to outside. And so what you end up with is high energy performance. We have we meet the Miami-Dade standard for hurricane wind loading, as well as the tornado standard for tornado shelters. We have a 2-hour fire rating so that you can build very dense structures if you want to have high density or do townhomes and things like that. It can't be eaten by bugs. It doesn't mold. It doesn't rot when it's flooded, and generally is pretty indestructible. So recently we gave kind of all of our data to MIT because we said, hey, we think we have a pretty sustainable solution on our hands, particularly once we developed our low carbon X mix. And MIT came back with a paper that said, yeah, when you're building at scale in larger developments like El Cosmico, this is actually the most sustainable way to build, the lowest carbon footprint when compared with traditional methods. So that was great to get this outside validation of all the work that we've been doing. Okay, so what does that mean going forward? I mean, we really imagine a world where you can have beautiful designs, either that are designed unique for a particular application like El Cosmico, or that come from an architectural catalog, and we can deploy printers to the field and have virtually autonomous construction sites. And this is a view of some of our designs. You can go on our website and see all manner of designs, 1-story, 2-story, and eventually maybe we'll print some of those skyscrapers in the background, but not quite there yet. So really what this means for us, and we think for the industry, is that our imaginations can be free to build what we want, not just necessarily what the building materials or the trades will allow us, right? We're no longer kind of confined to right angles and boxes and things like that. And so a group like Bjarke Ingels can come and really express their vision, and we can deliver it in terms of the form of the building. So this is out in West Texas. We have broken ground on the model home and the model hotel unit for El Cosmico 2.0. This is about, a month ago this video was taken. So we're building one of the model hotel units, actually the rendering that Lane showed earlier with the printed bed frame, as well as a 3-bedroom residence. So part of the new El Cosmico 2.0 is we're building 18 residences as part of the development. So folks can own a piece of El Cosmico and have their own little piece of the desert. Here's some renderings of the interior of these homes. This is a 4-bedroom. The one you saw previously was a 3-bedroom. This is a 4-bedroom home, and it's pretty incredible to wake up. I would think on the edge of the desert. The views are unreal, and be able to see the Milky Way from literally horizon to horizon. Pretty wild. So with that, I think we'll wrap up and take any questions y'all have.
Oh, perfect. Oh, I see Fred over there.
Fred, if you just
hang on one
wanna-
second.
Yeah, I just want to get on.
Two-parter. Thoughts on hempcrete? Do you guys use it at all, or any to get integrated? And then the second one is about stuff like conduit,
Yeah.
plumbing, drains.
Yep. So we don't use hempcrete. We don't have anything against it. The fibers that are associated with hempcrete would get all gunked up in our particular printer, but generally, like introducing fibrous materials into concrete and adobe is great for sustainability and also for tensile strength. So that was the one question. Oh, and then utilities. So we print what we call an open cavity wall system, kind of like you would associate even with a stick frame wall or with CMU, where there's an interior layer and an exterior layer, and then there's an air gap in the middle. And in that air gap, you can run all your electrical, your plumbing, you can fill it with insulation, and it's we've worked with the trades to really make sure that we're delivering something that particularly electricians and plumbers don't show up and say, well, what the heck is this, and then try to chop holes into. So it's fairly similar to how they would work with like a concrete masonry building.
Let me bring the mic to you over here.
Hey, Graham.
Hey.
At what quantity or square footage
Yeah.
or unit quantity is it effective or efficient now to bring in the equipment and to do this?
Yeah, we've printed over 150 buildings so far and are breaking ground on a number of developments like El Cosmico that are kind of 100-unit plus at the moment. I don't know the exact dividing line just because we haven't done projects at every step, right? I will say when it's like less than 10 buildings, it's not particularly efficient, largely because you may have seen in some of those videos, we still have to transport the printer to the site. The current printer, you saw it's a gantry style printer, we call it the Vulcan. It takes 4 tractor trailers, so 4 40-foot trailers to get that printer to the site. The new printer that we'll be launching next year is a crane-based printer, the one that was in one of those renderings. That will only require 1 truckload. So we're trying to do things like reduce that overhead cost. But I like to think like somewhere around 15 to 20 units, it pays back, right? But lower than that, it's more of like a one-off, like custom application. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let me give you the mic.
Go. What is it, Barry?
Sorry?
What is it? What's the follow-up?
So if you look towards the future
Yeah.
using this technology and you want to create an entire subdivision or community using this,
Yep.
at what point in time, I mean, can you move towards less rounded corners and more angular, typical home structure?
Yeah.
Is there a way of finishing the interior and the wall exterior so I mean, unless it always has to look like that. And I know it's an issue on our side too, because we do 3D printing, and that's one of the challenges as well.
Yeah, no, great question. So actually the curved, I'll call it the rounded corners, are a choice. They're actually not a requirement. So we could do a right angle. But there's something about when you walk by a building and it's a right angle, you don't notice it. But when it's a little bit curved, you say, wait, what's that? So it's a little bit of a branding moment, and also it's not typical. And so all of a sudden you can have a differentiated hotel or development or what have you. And then with respect to finishes, so there's some scenarios where having the exposed beads, like in the El Cosmico, having the exposed printing is a design choice, right? Bjarke Ingels wanted that particular like gradation of like almost like a rammed earth effect, right? Coming out of the desert. And then we work in other residential applications. Take social housing. We do a lot of housing for the homeless in Austin. We're adding additional coatings like smoothing the walls, just adds cost. And so, you don't necessarily want to do that. But we also do higher end residential applications where all the walls are plastered or all the walls are stuccoed. And that just makes sense based on those particular applications. Yeah, great question.
You can see in the Sunday Homes bathrooms, it's plastered.
Oh yeah. And some of those renders, the bathrooms are plastered. That's like we got worried about soap scum getting stuck in there. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, we can't see past the
Yeah.
bright lights, so like we're just follow the voices.
So for the El Cosmico project, will you be using local dirt to create the mix, or is it the same Carbonex that you're manufacturing?
For that project, at least right now, the plan is to use Carbonex from our batch plant. The good thing is it's all Texas source materials. And it's interesting because, we're based in Texas. We build in all 4 corners of Texas and are expanding later this year. But even in Texas, if you're building with wood, that wood's coming from Canada. Versus concrete, I can build with entirely regionally sourced materials. And so that's actually a key strategy of ours and a decision around concrete, where we really, when we look at concrete, what we see is the world's most ubiquitous local building material. So if I can get a printer to whatever region, really other than Antarctica, any continent other than the South Pole, I can find all the ingredients I need to batch our mix. And so that helps from a supply chain perspective, from a local sourcing perspective, and also from a carbon footprint perspective.
Oh, perfect. We've got one right here.
So do you have a plan for what will happen to the existing El Cosmico, or are you gonna
Great question.
sell it?
You want to take it?
Sure,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tee it up. You can take it after
Okay.
that. The current plan is to build affordable housing there. So, Marfa has, over the last several years, seen, an increase in housing prices. And, we certainly want to be a positive force for the community overall. And so we plan to convert that to affordable housing with Icon, and, we're working to finalize those plans. Big is also involved in that process. And so we've been trying to figure out the demographic information to back into, just how many units will be, for sale and for rent, but that is the plan.
One of the things that we've seen out in Marfa, much like I would imagine a lot of the kind of resort towns or places where a lot of hotels that folks in this room are working on pop up, if it's a vacation destination, really during COVID and around those times, a lot of the good residences got gobbled up for Airbnbs. And same thing happened in Marfa, where you have people that are owning homes that never live in them. And they're on Airbnb every weekend. The problem is, for the local service economy, there's no place to live. And so that's a big part of, I mean, just building this new El Cosmico, you're doubling the room count?
Not even
right?
including the residences.
Yeah, and so this is gonna add a ton of and a big new restaurant and a pool. It's gonna add a lot to that local economy. So just the growth from El Cosmico, not to mention the rest of the art community out there needs a place to live. So we're developing, so Big's done the master plan. We have a set of designs from a recent design competition that we just ran called Initiative 99. Basically, homes that can be built for $99,000 or less. And so we're gonna deploy those designs. And we're still trying to figure out, how to make all the unit count work and the economics work. We're not quite sure for rent, for sale, income controlled, but the goal is to have housing for folks that will live and work in Marfa.
Yep.
Hi.
Hey.
How do the machines do with different weather conditions?
Yeah.
Like how durable are they, and do you have to protect them?
Great question. Okay, we can conquer heat. We've printed in incredibly hot temperatures. Texas summertimes these days are like 110 degree plus. We can be out in the desert, dust and dirt and that kind of thing. We have not yet conquered rain. The beads extrude wet, they cure very quickly, but if it's a real hard rain and the concrete is wet, it's not ideal, I'll say that. And we haven't conquered cold. We're working on both. But the machines are designed under normal operating conditions to run 24/7. Without maintenance. So they basically they're on a cycle where they can print an entire home, and then when you move it from, like, call it one home site to the next, they undergo a little bit of kind of routine maintenance, and then they're off to the next site. But rain and cold are the next big challenges.
Question on there.
Question.
Great presentation. At what point of the design process should a developer start talking to Icon to make sure that the design is taking advantage of what the technology offers?
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you. The earlier, the better. He doesn't work for us, I promise. We tend to get, and actually one of the reasons we started developing our own designs that you saw there is folks kept coming to us with finished designs and saying, can you print this? And we're like, yeah, we can, but we don't really want to. And so we needed to show people what 3D printed architecture could look like, and now we have all these beautiful designs from Big that we can put out there as well. But typically the best time for us to get engaged is either in the concept stage, and so we're doing actually a number of both like concept and master plans at the moment for residential developments, for mixed-use developments, for hospitality. And then we've also been brought in kind of in the schematic design phase, and that's a good point before folks start to get like too locked in on structure and construction methods. In the schematic design phase, we can take kind of design intent and reinterpret it for 3D printing. We've done that successfully on a few projects recently. Once you kind of get past schematic design into design development, certainly into CDs, we end up having to kind of undo some work, particularly work that's been done, let's say, by structural engineers or others, because if we're changing the entire structural system of the building, not to mention the aesthetics and the forms, you tend to have to like kind of backtrack a little bit. Yeah. But worth noting, we have our own, and this is something we built over the last few years. When we started El Cosmico, the El Cosmico project, it's 3 years ago. We worked a lot with Big. Lake Flato is a well-known Texas architect, and a few other local architects in Austin. Since that time, we've built our own architecture and engineering capability inside of Icon with alumni from Big and Lake Flato and SOM and Diller Scofidio and Shop and firms like this. So we really now have the capacity to work directly with developers and kind of keep it all in-house.
Just out of curiosity, how are you guys dealing with building code and the inspection process?
Yeah.
This is obviously extremely new territory, and just kind of curious how you guys are navigating that.
Well, great question. Funny enough, it's the Wild West, and there are literally no permits, and there is no building code. So we have had to adopt the International Building Code, and so we're using that as our baseline compliance. And then we will get an outside third party to issue certificates of occupancy. So we're going through the hoops that don't exist.
Yeah, you really have to like use your own best judgment. I mean, certainly the architects and professional engineers have their own licenses that they care about, and so really no one is super incentivized to cut a bunch of corners out there, right? If we cut corners, our client's going to end up with a subpar development at the end of the day, and in some way or the other, that's going to come back on us. So we have a number of different architects, right? There's Big, there's the architect of record, there's structural engineers. So everyone's like really holding each other to a pretty high standard, and then we're bringing in independent inspectors to inspect throughout the process, just to kind of keep ourselves honest, to be honest.
It's a risk-averse bunch. So we're definitely following the best code that we can.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions. Okay, so here's one.
This is fascinating. So we're at Hotel Spaces. This is all beautiful residential, lovely designs, really, really interesting. How high can you go?
Yeah. So current printer goes to 12.5 feet. The Phoenix printer, the crane-based one that you saw, goes to 27 feet. So the Phoenix printer will be available in 2026. And we're already designing projects with that printer in mind today.
All right, another question over here.
What's that?
Real quick, and then as far as your concrete mix, if you work with Icon and your printer, do you have to use that mix, or are there other options?
Yeah, the printer is designed to work with our mix, so that's kind of like how we kind of like make sure it continues to operate and keep the warranty and all those kinds of things. We have mixes developed for numerous regions around the U.S. and are actively developing regional mixes globally. The whole idea of the business is you can build you can have one factory that builds the printers and then ship those printers anywhere in the world, and then you can have local batch plants in any region that are sourcing locally in those regions. So we've already developed at least 2 other regional mixes that I know of for future expansion in the U.S. as well as a handful of international mixes as well. So it's just kind of on our process when we start to see a hotspot, like, okay, hey, we're going to go in this region, we have a few projects here, we spin up a development process, develop the local mix, and then deploy it to a local batch plant, either with a local toller, local batch plant that already exists there, or spin up our own batch plant. Great question.
I actually have a quick question for you guys. Me here with the mic. Any major challenges? I mean, this is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Like, so developing this kind of off the grid, what were some of the biggest challenges or current challenges that you have kind of being out in Marfa?
It's a good question as well. I'd say reliable, skilled local labor is the biggest challenge.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Mechanical, electrical, plumbing trades. If anybody here
know any.
wants to come out to West Texas, work in a beautiful place, and help us build this out. Yeah, that's our current challenge at the moment, isn't it?
And the additional benefit of using these printers is that it does replace a couple trades.
Yeah,
so at least knocked out, 4 or 5.
Yeah, we have the structure covered, but we still we haven't solved the MEP trades yet.
I would say the second issue on my side, from the development side, is local government. I mean, I totally get it. I'm from a small town originally. I live in Los Angeles now. But they don't necessarily move at our pace. And so getting things, set in place like water, wastewater, which we're bringing in from the city, has been a labor of love. And so, yeah.
You got this.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get it. Just wish it would have happened a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I guess we're at time, but thank you guys so much. This was excellent. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.